And welcome to EduMatch. Follow along with us at bit.ly/tweettalk70, as well as on Twitter with the hashtag EduMatch. Speaking of EduMatch, did you know that you could be the EduMatch person of the day? To sign up at our website, edumatch.org. Look for the Google form in the probably about the second or third thing down on the page. Sign up. We'll tweet out about you over a period of 24 hours to get you those global connections you so desire. And if you're already on the list, then fear not. Right now, the list is a little long, but we're getting through it as soon as possible. So just know that your time is coming. So tonight, we are going to be talking with an awesome panel of authors, educational authors. Shout out to all of you. And also shout out to our fantastic moderator, Rafronz Davis. So what we're going to do right now is that we're just going to have panel introductions going from my left to my right. We're going to skip over Rafronz because we're going to save her for last while we kick it over to her. So we're going to start first with Doug. Could you please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Doug. I'm a fifth grade teacher in Gresham, Oregon, just outside of Portland, and I'm at The Weird Teacher. So if you know me, that's how you know me.
Awesome. Going next to Justin.
Hello, my name is Justin Schleider. I'm a physical education, health teacher, and technology integrationist in New Jersey at a preschool through sixth grade school, little tiny one school district. It is fantastic. I get to wear many, many hats. So if you know me, that's where you know me from.
All right, and hats are a great thing. I know that we all wear so many of them, so great. All right, Leslie.
Hi, I am Leslie Fagan. I am an instructional technology coach for a, I guess, medium-sized school district outside of Atlanta in a town called Griffin, Georgia. Glad to be here this evening.
Awesome. Very, very glad to have you. All right, next let's take Rachel.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Rachel Pearson. I'm on Twitter at rpearsonedu. That's Pearson with an IE. I am currently a STEM teacher in southern Minnesota, where we just got 6 inches of snow. So if that would mess up your school district, we are running just fine. I'm K-6 STEM, and our district is a small one. We're about 650 students right now.
Awesome. Welcome. Very happy to have you back. And next we have Rochelle, not to be confused with Rachel, but Rochelle.
I had to think for a second. Whenever you said Rachel, I'm like, that's not me. I'm Rochelle Poth. I'm from Pittsburgh. I teach Spanish, French, STEAM course to 8th graders. Looking forward to the talk tonight, as always, with the great people on this panel. So thank you again.
Couldn't find a mute button there for a second. All right, great. Welcome back, Rochelle. All right, next we're going to take Tracy.
Hi, my name is Tracy Brady. I teach high school French and Spanish in Hastings-on-Hudson, New York, Westchester County. And we are about 500, 9 through 12, and I am very happy to be here.
All right, awesome. And definitely wanted to give a huge shout out to our awesome moderator, Rafronz. So if you could please introduce yourself, and I will turn it over to you.
Hello, I'm Rafronz in audio only because I'm getting my hair done right now. But I am Executive Director of Professional and Digital Learning in Lufkin, Texas, about 90 miles northeast of Houston. Author of the book, The Missing Voices of EdTech, and the as yet untitled book to be released during the first quarter of next year. So I'm pretty excited to be here with all of you to talk about book writing.
Awesome. Thank you, Rafronz. And with that, we're going to turn it right over to you.
Great. So my first question is this, because I get writer's block quite a bit, especially when I'm talking about a particular topic and I feel like I'm getting really wordy. So my question for everyone in this group now, and I don't care who takes the question first, how do you get over writer's block in the process? Because anyone that says they don't get it is lying.
I think I'm going to take this one because I actually address this directly in my chapter for an upcoming semi-secret book that's coming out in just a few weeks. I have found that the more I try and go at it head on, the more blocked I get. So sometimes I just need to walk away from it and let the creative juices kind of work on their own. And I used to call that procrastination and used to be really hard on myself about it. But the more I've done it, the more I've learned that that's just part of my process, and walking away from it really, really helps. And I come back at it fresh. And sometimes it may be even several weeks later, but that's just what works for me.
Yeah, I agree definitely with walking away from something or trying to find a completely new tact. No, but normally when I'm blocked, I just I start making words, and because I believe that it's just the first draft, so it's allowed to suck. It's okay. So I just kind of write and write and write and write, and eventually something good and worth putting out will come out, and it takes a little bit longer when there's a block, but I find my way to what I want to say through it. So I fight through it normally.
Did you say you make up words, Doug?
I don't know if I'm. Yeah, sometimes. You don't make up words?
I don't
If
know
you put edu in front of something, then it's a made up word. So that counts.
Edu or hyper, both of those. All right, next. So my next question is sort of like a burning thought also is, some of us write pretty provocatively about our actual thoughts on education, but a lot of what actually happens in our school districts do not come across in our writing because you just can't do that sometimes. So how do you decide what gets written and what doesn't get written? In other words, how do you keep the truth in the writing without disrupting what you do and where you work?
Yeah, I'm going to take this one and say that I'm about 50% fake in my writing, meaning the fact of I can't be as completely honest and transparent as I want, because I know board members follow me, I know teachers follow me, and I know parents follow me. So when I'm writing, after I get done, before I hit publish, I look at it and go, how much trouble will I get in if my superintendent gets a phone call about this? So that's what I look at. Right before I press publish on anything, I make sure that if I get called and said, why is this there? What is this about? That I can explain it away without getting myself in too much hot water. So I definitely think that's a really good point, is that most of what we see has been whitewashed and definitely not the true perspective for a lot of things, because we just can't, or else we'll get in all kinds of trouble.
I can add to that if anybody else wants to go. Good.
I would love to hear. Go ahead, Rochelle. I would love to hear your perspective on this too.
Well, I kind of follow up what Justin says, and in education, I mean, any time, any day throughout the day, we have so many thoughts and we have so many interactions and things, and whatever we're dealing with tends to come out in multiple ways. Like for some of us, we sit down, we write right away. For others, you become more reflective. And I was never really a writer, and I was never really much of a reflective person. But one thing that I was, or I've tried to be throughout my life, was to always think before I speak. And now in this technological world, it's like you have to think before you hit click or push and publish it. And in teaching the younger students that I have, they're so quick to say something and put it out there, and they'll come back and they'll say, well, when you were younger, you said things, and remember that my parents told me to break my bones, and the rest of how that goes. And I say, well, yeah, all that is true. People did say that. But the difference is back then, the words kind of faded off and dropped through the air, or they were lost in translation and passing across the hallway. So that's one lesson I try to teach my students and keep in mind to myself is no matter how angry or whatever emotions are being stirred or whatever message I have that's building up in me, whenever I write it, I'm not one to sit down and actually type. I usually just walk around and talk and let it text into the document. But before I ever publish anything, I go through it, and I might make multiple copies of it too, and then consider the audience, but always keeping in mind, like Justin said, you have to look through certain lenses, like who is going to read this and who can share it with somebody else. And it's so important to keep that in mind, that being in the unique position we are as educators or in education, we leave impressions on people in all different ages. And we always have to kind of just keep in mind, like before you hit that publish, how many times is that going to be passed throughout, communicated to other people? And is any of it going to come back? And can we defend it? There's a lot of consideration that goes into it. And I kind of went on a little bit longer, but, we always have to think, no matter what we do, whether it's in writing or being in public, I mean, we're in that position that we always have to think and keep in mind, who might hear about this. So that's my short version of it.
I'd like to jump in. I think that when I write, I just always assume that nobody's going to read what I write because that's been my experience, and I'm okay with that. And I'm also, most of the time, a pretty tactless person. So whatever comes to mind is what I write. And if nobody reads it, I'm okay with it. And if somebody reads it, then generally I can defend myself. But if I write something that's too serious, well, actually, all the time when I write, I try to inject a little humor in it. So to take the sting out of what I say, because there's a lot of sarcasm that goes with being Leslie, and that does come across in my writing, and it comes across if you've ever spoken to me in person. So I try to find a balance with what I'm doing in my writing. But if we hide what's going on in our school districts, if there are issues, we're never going to fix any problems. So let me just put it out there. And if you have issues with it, either I find myself another job or we come to an agreement about what needs to be done. I'm not one to shy away from stuff too very often because I wasn't raised like that.
Leslie, I'm fist pumping you. I know you can't see it, but I am right now. But you raise a very valid point about if we don't share. I mean, we share the good, but if we don't share those areas of struggle, we're not going to fix anything. You're absolutely correct. So how did all of you make the decision as to not just what you want to write about, whether it be a blog or however you're writing collaboratively, but to make that transition to a book where we're fighting in a system where most teachers will still say that what they do isn't of value or isn't worth sharing? What advice would you give any other teachers wanting to get over that hump about their own abilities to share and also making the decision about what to share?
I'll jump in there. I think it's important to share regardless of who you think is going to see it. I mean, yes, you have to think about what you're going to say, but generally when I write something, I write it thinking about whether or not somebody else is going to find value in it. And if they stumble upon it, that's great. And if nobody reads it, that's fine too, because a lot of the time I'm just writing for myself and to get things out. A lot of the times, if I have something that's more controversial to say and I feel the need to tweet it or to put it on Facebook or out on social media somewhere, I'll type it out and then delete it, or type it out and hit post on Facebook, but change the privacy so only I can see it, or make a private blog post. That way the writing still gets out of me, and, regardless of who sees it, it's still valuable to me as a process. So I don't know if that quite answers the questions, but it looks like we have a new participant. So Sarah, take it away.
All right, yeah, just wanted to jump in and welcome Jody, who's joining us in progress. Hey, Jody. Can you please introduce yourself when you get a chance? Okay, she might be frozen, so we'll come back to her. But all right, so sorry to disrupt, and back to what y'all were saying.
I think Franz makes a really good point. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I cutting Franz off?
No.
Oh, okay. I think Franz makes a really good point. The thing that you hear from a lot of people is, I don't have anything. I'm not doing anything special. And it's such a, we have such a hard time finding the line between you're being narcissistic and you're actually sharing something of value. And people get really scared of, no, I don't want to brag. And it's like the only way we're going to learn from each other is if you brag on yourself a little bit, if you talk about the stuff that you think you're doing good. And that's a kind of a baby step thing for a lot of people. You get them to say one good thing that they're doing, and then they get feedback from other people. Oh, that's a really good idea. And hopefully that triggers something in their brain. They're like, oh, that's just something I've always been doing. I didn't realize that was something special. And so those kind of things kind of feed into each other. And then For a book, at least, the book, when I wrote a book, the first book was kind of like what a lot of people have said. I didn't expect anybody to read it, and I didn't write it to make money or any of that kind of stuff. I wrote it because I had a student teacher, and turns out that the things I'm doing in my classroom are not crazy and only work for me. They worked for her, and they worked for my other student teacher. So these things must have value. So I'm going to write a book and I'm going to put it out there. And if nobody reads it, that's totally okay. But taking that risk and then getting the feedback of, oh, I do this too, and that works for me. And it's the best way to grow the profession is from the inside, from each other, and getting over that hump of being too scared or too modest to share is a challenge, but it's super important.
Hey, Doug, so you are the weird teacher. And I think that what I love about you as the weird teacher is that you are basically this character on the front of your book. You're the weird teacher on Twitter. You have the weird ed chat. You're even more weirder on Instagram, but I love it because your kids are there. So my question, I guess, for you to start is how important is branding to all of this? Because you can say, well, I'm just putting it out there and I'm just thinking no one is going to read it. But you know what? You don't create the weird teacher across all platforms and think no one is going to put 2 and 2 together and read it. So what advice would you give to those who are writing to grow their audience or to get someone to want to buy their book or material?
That's a really good point. And I'm branded. I swear that was an accident. The weird teacher thing's not a thing I came up with. 2 kindergartners, I was walking down the hall, said, he's the weird teacher. And I loved it. So I stole it from them because what are they going to do? They're kindergartners. And then I figured as long as I'm writing under the weird teacher and doing the weird teacher stuff, I might as well make that consistent across everything. Because you're right. I do want people to read the book. I want people to find my stuff, and I want it to be really easy for that to happen. So it's not so much it's not because I'm trying to create some kind of cottage industry as it is this is trying to come up with a good way to say it. I want it to be easy to figure out who I am. And the weird teacher thing it's such a big umbrella that you can kind of fit anything into that. So that's why I'm going with that. And yeah, just I'm the weird teacher on YouTube. I'm the weird teacher on Twitter. I'm the weird teacher on Instagram. I'm the weird teacher on Snapchat. So I'm really easy to find.
All right, that is super cool. Just wanted to jump in one more time. I think that we have Jody back with us. So Jody, if you could please introduce yourself and then give your take on that question that Rafranz asked Doug. I don't think we don't have audio on you. Yeah, we still don't have audio. Could you try to go out and come back in? Okay, cool. All right, so opening that question back up to the panel.
I think branding's very important, just so people, like Doug said, kind of understand who you are. And then when you do a new endeavor or when you go across a different platform, people know where to find you. So on Twitter, you're doing your little micro blogs or sharing your links. Then you're going to have your own site. So I know if I want to find Doug's blog, I know I could go search it up. On YouTube, you want to go and be able to find people. So I do think branding is very important in that way, searchability, but also when we talk about consistency and ideas as well. I'm a big fan of whatever I do on Twitter, then I could expand on that in my blogs. And I think that a lot of people appreciate that platform, whether it's video blogging or blogging with words, whatever it is, of taking what you're doing on one forum and then expanding it on another one. And even Facebook has sort of become a lot of education for me recently as well, which I used to just be anti, just because I thought it was for sharing food pictures.
All right, so the branding question I knew was kind of a tough one. I myself, when I released my book, am the worst with selling it and promoting it. It's just never been my thing. It's the most uncomfortable thing to do. But there was another issue that kind of came from that I didn't expect, and that's the fallout from back home. So when you're writing and you're putting yourself out there, you can't, if you are in a situation in your own school where there isn't some pushback in some corner somewhere, you are in a great situation. But that is not the case for a lot of people. So how do you deal with, this whole idea if you can't be a prophet in your land? You're writing these great things, you're putting it out there, but you might have people in your own school or community who maybe not be as supportive. So what advice can you give from your experiences, if you have any, in dealing with that?
I don't want to bogart the chat. Nobody was talking, so I'm going to jump in. I try to be really open with people. I'm constantly. I don't want to be the prophet. Frankly, I just want to be one of the voices, and I want people to be able to come to me and feel open to me. So I'll have like a sign on my door that says, "If Mr. Robertson is teaching, you can come in and watch." And give feedback, because I'm always happy for feedback. And somebody corrected my grammar on my sign, which was funny. And then sending out emails, hey, if you guys have tech questions or anything, because I'm like the tech person at my school, that I'm one of the ones that's good at tech. Please, let's work on tech. And trying not to be, I'm doing keynotes and I'm writing books and blah blah blah, but really just kind of making it open, trying to be open and friendly and out there, so that people know that I am a resource, but also going to them and asking them, because like I said, I am definitely not the expert. I'm not the only one.
Yeah, it's hard. I agree. I don't really tell a lot of people in my school what I do. I had a teacher who was at a professional development with the superintendent of the ascending district, because our elementary schools all go around, and he asked the teacher, "Oh, well, you must know what he's doing." And she kind of just looked at him, because he's a socially connected superintendent. And she was like, "Well, not really, because I don't talk a lot about what I do in school. I don't know how ready they are for the ideas I'm bringing across." Once in a while, I'll put out a blog or a resource to them about something that's pertinent, that was either came up in a professional development or a faculty meeting, or if we were talking about something in a book club, I'll forward them things. But I really don't share a lot of what I've done with the teachers I work with. I guess because of that same thing of, you don't want to seem like you're big-headed, like you're trying to be better than everyone else. I don't really talk about where I'm going, other than local stuff that I want people to come to and join in. So it is very difficult in your own school to not want to share as much, because you don't want them looking at you and going, "Oh, he's just doing this to make himself look good, or he's trying to make me look bad, or he just wants to suck up to administration," because I don't want to be that person. So like Doug, I'm open to everything. I tell him, if you need any help with tech, if you need any help with anything, hit me up. Now that I freed periods up, I told my administration, put my classes together. So now I'll have more periods to come in and help you. And I'll co-teach after that. So it is a little difficult to not want to put yourself out there like you're bigger and better than everyone else, when really I'm just trying to share the ideas out there. So I agree. It is very hard not to be the prophet in your own land, and much easier with strangers out there that aren't going to, judge you.
I know I'm supposed to be asking the questions, but I do want to say, for me, I don't actually hide anything that I do. I also don't broadcast it. But then again, I don't broadcast it on Twitter either. So there's that. But I put it out there on Twitter. It's on my website if people want to go to it and see it. And they have. And sometimes the feedback was good. And sometimes things were questioned, but that's part of it. No big deal. But I love just the part of this conversations. And I made a point to ask some pretty kind of provocative questions in a way, because oftentimes when you're on this side of it, or when you're on the part of sharing, people see you as this person on Twitter, or they see us as this person online, and they think you are clearly that person all the time. But what they don't realize sometimes is, as much as we share and put out there, there is struggle in our own schools sometimes. There's this even struggle with how we deal with what we share in ourselves in doing that. So for that teacher who is on the cusp and they want to write and they want to share, what do you tell them? Tracy, Rochelle,
Yeah.
Rachel, anybody?
Can you hear me now? It's Rochelle. All right, I got thumbs up. Yeah, you say, what do you tell some teacher? Probably 5 years ago, I had thought about blogging. I didn't even honestly know what blogging meant, what it stood for, and it came up one day, and I thought, I wonder if I could do that, but what would I write about? Like, who would care what I would write about? And so I just let it go. A couple of years went by, and then about 2.5 years ago, I just started using more technology with my students, and I had the opportunity to write a post for SurveyMonkey. And that was like the first one, and I thought, okay, that wasn't that bad. And so I just started writing and just had these ideas. And going back to the prior question with Doug and Justin and everybody saying, you don't want to brag about yourself, and it's hard because you get so excited about what you're experiencing and you want to share it, especially when they're great ideas and you think they can benefit the people in your school. So I do hold back on sharing within my school what I do, but I do have teachers that come and ask me questions, but my main motivation has always been my students. And a lot of the recent opportunities I've had for writing blogs has been with the students involved, and we've co-written some blogs, and those kind of things I will put out there. For a couple of reasons. One, because I want to celebrate the success of those students because I think it's fantastic. And two, because I hope that by some of the other teachers just seeing that and the students being excited about it, it'll encourage them to maybe take that chance too. So the best advice I could tell somebody is just you have to start somewhere. And it can be small, just one short thing, just put it out there. People, like Doug said, I think, if they read it, fine. They might not read it, whatever it is, but everybody has to start somewhere, and it might be the greatest thing you've written. Now, when I look back at that first blog, I think, I don't know if it was that great, but it's a way for everybody to grow and reflect in the process, but you don't know what you can or can't do until you take that first step. So that's about all I can offer on that one.
I'd like to add to that. I would tell a teacher the same thing that I told my students a number of years ago. I remember I was in the dugout with our girls softball team, and they were losing, and they were like, there's really not any point in this. And I said, you know what? If you doubt yourself, you'll defeat yourself. So I tell that to the teachers. If there's something that you want to do, but you think you can't do it, what do you have to lose? I have a bucket list, and there are lots of things on that list that may seem absolutely ridiculous, but I'm going to try them. So if there's something that a teacher wants to do, if they want to write a blog, if they want to, get a YouTube channel, whatever it is they want to do, try it, because if you don't try it, you don't know what you're going to do, and you've got a lot to learn when you fail at something. There are a lot of things that I'm good at, and there are even more things that I'm not good at, but I know that I'm not good at it because I've tried it. So my words, if you doubt yourself, you'll defeat yourself. Follow your dream, follow your heart, do whatever it is you want to do, and to heck with the consequences. It'll all be okay in the end.
It is a great way to reflect. I mean, I didn't do a lot of reflecting before other than some conversations. So once you start writing, it does make you bring your thoughts together, try to figure out why you're doing things. You're going to look at it how other people might view what you're doing. So it is going to step your pedagogy up a little bit, because to be honest, I don't want to put something out there in the world that is going to be garbage or people are going to rip apart. So when I look at it, I want to look at it and say, is it best practices? Am I doing what's best for the kids? How has this changed over the course of the years? And those are all time reflecting on what I've been doing. So before I blogged, I never did that. There wasn't a lot of reflection going on. And when you don't reflect, you're really not going to get better in your practices.
One thing I would add is just make sure you're coming from a place of passion And we all, as educators, we have our own passions, and that's the best place to start. And as long as you're putting your passions down on paper, you really can't go wrong, and you won't run out of things to say. We all have things to say, and we all have a voice that deserves to be heard.
Well, I truly am thankful for you guys having me on tonight to kind of moderate and talk about this. I know that I feel deeply inspired, and I really do hope that some other teacher who may be watching this feels not just inspired, but compelled to share their story too, because all of them are important, whether they're good, whether they're a struggle, whether it's just not even just an idea that can possibly impact a classroom. Like, I'm really excited to be having this conversation with all of you.
Awesome, Franz. Thank you so very much for moderating this fantastic discussion. Thank you to everyone who is on panel. Thank you to everyone who is tweeting with us, everyone who's watching. Major announcement that the spoiler alerts coming up right now, so drum roll. There are quite a few people on this panel who have been involved in the EduMatch very first collaborative book, which is coming out at the end of the month, Snapshot in Education. So just raise your hand if you've written a chapter. All right, cool. So you can check that out. It's coming up at the end of the month. So the exact date, TBA. Franz's hair looks amazing, by the way. So the exact date, TBA, and we will have a launch party. All of you are invited, as well as anyone who is watching us right now. So more info will be coming on that. So the Twitter chat will be transcribed within the next few minutes, and the audio from this will be stripped and put on iTunes in the next few weeks. So come back next week. We're going to be talking mentorship, so you can sign up if you want to be part of that discussion. tinyurl.com/edumatch sign up. And also wanted to give a huge shout out to EdCamp Voxer, which is coming back for round 3 at the end of the month, the 27th through the 29th of December. So sign up for that. Registration is open at edcampvoxer.com. Also wanted to give a huge shout out to Randall Sampson, who has a fantastic program. We are all learning and growing together. So if you're interested in getting grad credit for that, then you can contact him on Twitter at Randall Sampson, and he also has a website that he can share with you. I think it is bit.ly/P_D_1. And if you like the podcast and you want to subscribe, then check out bit.ly/EduMatch podcast. So thank you again to everyone, and hope that you all have a fantastic week.